the economy and strangling us and taking benefits away from us. These are the things that we need to do to create jobs. Thank you.
Had that question, your question has been answered. The next question I think I'll direct at Mr. Opeyemi Agbaje. It says, don't you think that Nigeria's problem is poverty? Poverty makes you steal, poverty makes you selfish, poverty makes you lack self-control. And all you think about when you get there is how to use both hands and legs to draw riches to yourself. I'm going to relate it to the Christian agenda and the proposal you presented to us.
I say, what produces poverty? Why, poverty is a symptom. So poverty is a symptom of the lack of discipleship, the absence of leaders, the absence of social justice, the formulation of policy that is inequitable, selfishness, and all of that. So poverty is an outcome. The question is, what produces poverty? And I think that's why we're trying to diagnose at the fundamentals. If you reframe that question to what produces poverty, you will see that between myself, and Femi, we are suggesting some of the answers. So a system that is unjust will produce poor people. Even the Bible says so. If you have leaders, if you have princes working, when less able people are formulating policy, it will produce poverty. It will produce absurd consequences. If, for instance, like Femi said, you have a sustained period of high oil prices, a sustained period of economic growth, and in the same period, poverty is increasing, then you know that there's something wrong. There's some incongruity there. There's some absurdity there. So what produces that? Let me give you an example. When we did the needs document, the needs document was anchored on 4 things. There was a part that required reform of markets. Government implemented that part. Why? Because when you reform markets, you help Dangote, you help Femi Otedola, you help Jimovia. The markets get better, you create a new industry, pensions, you create a new industry, the capital market, you do this and do that. So we implemented that very conscientiously. There were 3 pillars, so we implemented the reform of market pillar. There were 2 pillars. We made half-hearted attempt at the second one, which was the reform of government. So we selected the beneficial aspects, monetization, all of those things, and we implemented them. Savicon, we made some noise about it. But there was a third arm of needs that Nigerians did not hear about. And that was the one empowering people. It was there. It was in the document. It was the needs document. You see the 3 pillars. But that role of that third pillar, empowering people, building social safety. So in the consequence, what happened was that the benefits of growth were distributed in a skewed manner. So poverty was a predictable outcome. If you had a system that wasn't based on the needs of the people. So it still goes back to those things. Some of those things I suggested we're going to look at. How do you ensure that your leadership and your political elite is developmental, is focused on social justice, is focused on economic justice? You don't have a self-seeking elite. You don't create a destructive society, self-destructive society, by the way, because so you create a country like Nigeria. If they say, if you say 60% of Nigeria is poor, if you say there's a 60% poverty rate, do you know how many people that is? 60% of 180 million. You know there can be no peace in the country.
Yes.
Even if you had 10 million poor people, there can't be peace.
No peace.
Exactly.
So the issue is what produces poverty, and I suggest that poverty is an outcome. You should focus instead on the things that produce poverty, and those are trying to reform the system, creating real governance that is focused on the needs of people.
Section, I'll direct it at Pastor John and Elama. I'm going to do a few questions together because they're quite similar. I'll read them all out. It says, in a multi-faith state like Nigeria, is it really a failure on the part of Christians to have a Muslim leader? Then it says, is there a difference between a Muslim and an alleged Christian who does not act in a Christ-like manner? For example, going to church on Sunday does not make one a Christian. Then the final question is Mr. President a Christian? Do we know his salvation story? Does he model Christ? We have 2 non-Christians running for office. How should the citizens choose?
I will start from the last one. Is the president Christian? I said I will start from the last one. Is the president Christian? I'll go from there to the first one. I think the understanding that I have is that the current president did not become president because he was Christian. That's the understanding that I have. I don't think he became president because he was Christian, but I think he comes from the Christian part of the country, and so we are sure he's not a Muslim.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
okay. But from a prophetic perspective, all that I heard, and even when we prayed as a team, is that God said to us 4 years ago that in my decision concerning Nigeria, this is the man I have had a dialogue with about Nigeria. In fact, he has never even emphasized his competence once. That's why the question about God's agenda is superior to this question. You see, in God's agenda, he's working with people. Those people may be failing in their humanity, but God is advancing his agenda. You do that analysis for yourself. Let me give you an example. Today, in this country, we have a level playing ground for politics. That was part of God's agenda. The political reform has started spiritually. Of course, that's why we're having a debate. Why is your vote counting in 2015? Did it count 8 years ago?
No.
Of course, that's movement forward. That's so God's perspective, man's perspective, they're not the same. We are judging the man's competence, which is correct, but God is judging his own agenda. So that's why I said that the failure of a church is really when they're not supplying men to God. Okay? So my take on that is that I've never debated about the Christianity of the president because it was not the basis of the vote for me. Okay? So that question is a question that some other person can answer about his Christianity or not Christianity. Because when it comes to that, my understanding was, what was God saying? What's the next question there?
It was asking what the church should do, what practical steps the church and Christians should do to vote, because we're between a non-Christian and a Christian who doesn't really practice.
First of all, the conversation we're having here, people are fixated about the next election, right? I'm sorry to say, the issues you're dealing with, you have to go beyond that election. Okay? Why do I say that? Because, well, I don't want to sound too spiritual, but the truth is that election, I think they've called the results from where they called the results. Okay? We're going to vote. Let me tell you, why we started with God is the God of the nations, is that even when Israel fought, there was a battle they had, that there were more non-human beings fighting on their behalf. Because it was a predetermined battle, because of the agenda of God. God's agenda at that time is that this territory I have given to the people of Israel. Now, some people ask the question, why would God take a territory from another country to give another country? It's a valid question. And people the lawyers here will debate it. But the reason was that the sins of the original owners had reached heaven, their cup was full, and God judged them. That's all. So you can say, but it's not fair. Well, I'm not debating with you, debate with God. Okay? So, this election we have, to be honest with you, because it's a continuation of an agenda, God has an agenda. Yeah. So whether you vote this way, you vote that way, it's relevant, it should count. But I think that it's a deeper question to say, where is God going to? And how does he plan to get there? And what can I do? So it's not as simple. It's not about the Buhari or Jonathan and so on and so forth. To be honest with you, if I had a conversation with both of them, the question I ask is that, what is your pact for Nigeria? What's your pact with God? That's what I do on them. And if somebody says, I don't care about God, I have a pact with Nigeria, I'll do this, I'll do that, I say, but what has God told them about Nigeria? Because for me, I've been a Christian long enough to know that God has an agenda for Nigeria. If you're not aware of that agenda, and I don't know whether you're part of the dialogue. Anyway, next question. No, I mean, there's one more. Yes. I know it doesn't sound...
Yeah, that's not the
They were connected, yes.
Okay.
It was,
Is it done?
that is done. Thank you. Thank you. The next one is a comment, and this comment actually leads on to the next set of questions. This person says, the church needs to see herself as one body, and the divisions, competitive spirit currently in existence, unfortunately, means that the unity desired is really a pipe dream. So, that's very...
Antonia, there's a question that you asked that was not answered, and it's not a very easy question to answer. Somebody said, in a multi-faith country, that when you say that is a failure of a church for a Muslim country to emerge. That's the first part of the question. I don't think I answered that, and I don't think it's an easy question to answer though. In other words, because in my presentation, the way it sounds is that I'm saying to myself that, okay, that if a Buhari is the country's best candidate, okay, I presented it that the church is failing. But the implication of that does not mean that a Buhari or somebody like him cannot be president. Yeah, look at the proper analysis. I'm saying that if he becomes your best candidate, it's not a run of candidates who you're now saying, look, listen, let's look at the track record, let's look at it. We're not saying that, in fact, on morality is number one, on this is number one. So what has the church been doing? That's the point I was trying to make. Don't misunderstand that. Because if the church were to fulfill its purpose, don't make the mistake to think that all the people that went to the White House were Christians. No. But the law and the system already knew how they would behave. For if they behaved otherwise, they were out.
So this is a challenge. It leads to the next question, and which will be our final question for this event. Just a note, we'll have all the questions on our website with the answers from the speakers as well, so you can visit and check up on your answers there. But this person asked, and it's a combination of two questions. What practical steps are in place to generate a political and development agenda for Nigeria? How do we then raise disciples who will serve God and create change? Something similar to the call of Isaiah. And I think that's the big question of this evening. So I'll allow all three of our speakers answer it.
What practical steps? I think what we're doing, the partnership, and what we're doing here, the collaboration between the Bilateral Commission and AIMP is a beginning. What we have committed ourselves to is to first try and come up with a suggested agenda, and then to be very humble in doing that work, such that we receive input from everybody, and at the end of the day, hopefully we can have some agreed agenda. Now, I endorse what Pastor John said about there's too much fixation. I think I get this thing, and I'm going to be a bit categorical on this. I get this feeling from many Christians who are saying, God, don't tell me what to do about this election. My brain has already told me. And so they fight back anything contrary to what their brain or their hunger, like Esau, has told them. They argue immediately. So let's not be fixated about it. That one will pass in a few days. So we'll come up with some agenda. God will speak, and God's will be done concerning this one. And I agree as well that with that statement that, and it's not a political statement, it's a mere statement, and it's a statement I made 5 years ago. If you talk about reform in Nigeria and the people who are going to save Nigeria, and all the names you come up with are Muslims, then the church has failed, and it's failing. So there's a problem. So it's a statement of fact. If reform is to happen in a place, it is the salt and the light that is supposed to be the source of the reform. If that church, salt and light is looking for salvation outside, something is congenitally wrong. There's a failure. The salt is losing or has lost its saltiness and is looking for a new source of salt. But so what I'm saying concerning this is, yes, we will try and moderate the evolution of some church agenda, recognizing some of the issues I pointed out, the need for the church itself to first reform itself and then begin to be able to play that role. And we will try to secure consensus around it, try to be advocates of it, try to be ambassadors of that agenda. Like I said, we would have to be humble in that process in order to recognize that it is not us. We are just facilitating a process, and we would need to get everybody around that. And if we do get that, then the job of executing it will belong to others. So those will be the comments I would have.
I would also add that, remember after Elijah faced the prophets of Baal and he was running away from Jezebel, God asked him, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "Look at what has happened in Israel. I've been facing the prophets of Baal, facing Ahab and Jezebel, and I'm tired because I'm the only one left." And God must have looked at him and just, sneered at him and said, but then God said to him, "There are 7,000 others like you. The only thing is that you're not in a network with them. You just don't know who they are." Now, the truth of the matter is that there are people who are already doing all sorts of things. For example, my dear sister is here, quietly focused on holding government accountable, mobilizing the youth, looking at elections and ensuring that we protect the integrity of the electoral process, we make our votes count. So there's a campaign: register, select, vote, protect, RSVP. There's a Christian behind that. And that work is going on. There's some people who are focused on observing elections and acting as observers, just to ensure that the process goes the way it should. There are people who are focused on the issues of poverty. There are people who are focused on issues of governance. There are people who are focused on political institutions. There are people who are focused on the rule of law. There are some people who have decided to go and actually get into the contest and seek elective office. So we may, in the process of just looking inwards, assume that God is not at work. But the truth of the matter is that God is at work. And there are lots of people who are doing different things. And in the fullness of time, I guess we will see that, well, things were happening all along, and we just didn't realize it. Thank you very much. I think as we are coming to a closure, it would be nice to say a few things. Some of us are a bit more active in the social media, I assume, much more active than I am. For example, I know that it's on record that one of the pastors that I work with, who is a friend and a mentor to me, Pastor Sunday Delaja, wrote an extensive 6-part article supporting the presidential candidacy of Buhari and Osinbajo. Okay? And I know that before he wrote that article, for example, we had a long phone conversation. I was in the US over the New Year, Christmas and the New Year, and maybe it was a Skype call, and we spoke, and he said to me, "This is how I'm thinking." So I said, "Why?" I asked him questions. I said, "What do you know about the gentleman?" Of course he knows Osinbajo and all that, because Prof and us, we're all together. Prof is an apostle of righteousness in the marketplace, right? So I asked him a number of questions. And he said to me, based on my political experience in Ukraine, I'm talking about Pastor Sunday Delaja, that this is how I'm thinking, and that you have to trust my experience, which you don't have. And I said, it's true. So, it wasn't like we were quite agreed, but I said to him, okay, write, because you need to write. He said he was going to write. Then a few days later, I got an article from Dobson, and he was comparing President Obama to Churchill. Of course, I think he was very angry with Obama. That's why I read the article. So he compared them, and I pushed the article to Pastor Dela and I said, look, this man has written an article. I think that you're obligated to put your thoughts in writing. Of course, I didn't know it would generate all the things that it generated. But I said that to say a few things as we conclude. One of them is that one of the things I learned from Pastor Delaja and the Ukrainian experience is that as a church in Ukraine, they work with every sitting government. They work with every government. And they strike deals with the government that they want. Nobody becomes president, at least in the few years I've known him, that does not call him and negotiate with him before the elections, okay? Now, we must make a distinction between the political process and what happens after the elections. Let me explain what I mean by that. You see, first of all, I found it interesting that a non-Nigerian living in an European country, in quotes, it's an all-white country where racism is very high. I mean, they call blacks, they're black monkeys, monkey, you understand, or chocolate. When they arrived in Belarusia as a teenager, most of the people that saw him were seeing the first black man in their life. Do you understand? They asked him at the airport whether they lived on trees, all those kind of things. And in a few years, he was able to reach that point where governments are negotiating with him. That's what we are advocating for Christianity in Nigeria. I don't think we'll ever get to the point where we will not categorically be saying that Christians should vote for only Christians. That will never be right in a country like ours. I don't think so. Our faith was strong enough. Let's even take a scenario where anybody was president. If you abuse the country, they are living under constraints. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, they are living under constraint. We're not a force to be reckoned with. They are not negotiating with Christians. What is going on really is that people are maybe lining their own pockets, or a few people are benefiting, they are friends of the president, those kind of things. And I'm saying that with humility. That is not a case where the people are saying that the Christians in Nigeria are influencing the direction of the election. Okay? Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, so what I would say is that, because somebody has been here, why don't you just categorically tell all Christians to vote only Christians? I don't know whether they say that sarcastically, or whether they are angry, or whether they really mean that. I don't think we can say that. I think that what we can advocate is that if we do these things we have said, we're going to build a country where our faith is a force to the economy. Because think about remove Christianity, right? Remove Christianity. Remove the title that you are Christian or a Christian. Remove it. Let's go to work and we have no title. If you sit in your office, you don't have a title. How do you function? Okay. If somebody comes to live in my house and I don't tell them I'm a pastor, which I tell my wife, don't be telling me you're a pastor. If they live with you, let them find out that you're a pastor. Okay, so somebody's living with you, you have a rep. Don't say, I'm a pastor, Pastor John. All this title, we should throw it away. I'm John. Okay? So, if I'm John and I'm a Christian, what difference does it make? What difference does it make? What difference should it make on a societal level, which we call institutional righteousness? What difference does it make that Femi is the CEO of a company? He's running the company. Okay, he's here. He's running the company. I work from the company. I talk to the lowest staff. That's my staff. I talk to everybody. And I say to them, how is it going? I know how many times people have told me that I've never worked in a company like this. If I say, what do you mean? Say that they promise you money, they actually pay you. Yes. I'm talking about messengers that have built house in Lagos. I'm serious. I say, how? And it's institutional righteousness. They are not perfect. But Oke said to us years ago that he went for an Aspen meeting it was in Ghana. And they were talking about the good society. So he now came back and said to himself, we're talking about good society, building Africa, building Nigeria. I'm the CEO of a company. Why can't the good society start in the company? So he said, you know what? I am going to practice it in this company where I'm CEO. All this Nigeria is too big for me. Yeah. So he came back and decided that, look, I will fight with my Christian life, to live a Christian life, to be the CEO of a company where Christian values transform the entire organization. I cannot say they've arrived, but it's a journey. Yeah. So he took up the challenge. So the example, now, let me tell you the summary. When they employ people, you know, I've never said on the panel, so this is just my own view. I don't think, from what I know, that they can in this country, based on our constitution, I don't think they can ask somebody doing interview, are you a Christian? They cannot do that. It's unconstitutional. In fact, it's discrimination. But do you know what happens? Do you realize that every time they employ people, 80% of those that walk through that interview or that filter are pastors? Because of what they're looking for, integrity, intelligence, all those things. They don't ask them because it's on the basis. But eventually when they come in, most of them, they're not just Christians, they are people that are really serious with their faith. Okay, but they also have people who are not Christian, but what they have in common is excellence, integrity, diligence. That's what they all have in common. When a Muslim person wearing one of their outfits, it's not before, it's very, very senior in the organization. They go to meeting in that company, you don't pray. You don't pray publicly there. They don't have all this afternoon prayer at all. In fact, you can't, the chairman will fire you. Because he says that people pray, just do your work here. Yes, he says, let the prayer you pray be expressed through the work you do. Yes, you can't be praying by 12 and collecting bribe by 1 p.m. You can't do that. You cannot do that. So I think that even though it looks a bit complex, in summary, what we are really saying is that the Christian faith should be a force to be reckoned with in Nigeria. And that it should be a force to shape policy, direction of government, and that the Christianity should prove their faith by the quality of men it has produced. Even if a non-Christian is president, Christianity should be able to negotiate with the president and say, look, the church must buy land and have C of O in the south, in the north, and that if they are shooting at us in the north, we are going to vote you out.
Yes.
Do you understand? Yes, but I cannot come here and tell you, vote only for Christian. It's not constitutional. God bless you. Some dying found no son of him to succeed him. He decided to choose a servant to succeed him. His heart will be full of regret and sad. Can God have this in this nation? He said, and I think it's a prophetic book. I don't know who wrote this. I know she's very prophetic. And I think it's a question she's asking us. Well, I can answer for AMP Network and for those of us in this room to say that it's not our desire that God will have no sons in Nigeria. It's not our desire. You know, I, as John and Nalama, I have said to God many times, publicly and privately, because we have a church on the Lekki Axis. I've stood there on the podium many times, and I said to God that I read in the scripture where the Bible says, and he sought for a man to stand in the gap, and that he found him. And he said that his hand also brought righteousness. I've said to God that in my lifetime, I offer you my life.
Amen.
My mother first told me that he offered me to God.
Amen.
Without affirmation, I said to them, she told me. She didn't say, she told me, she said that to me. I said, okay. I said that my mother told me he offered me to you. Now, willingly, I offer myself that in my own lifetime, in this Lekki corridor, which I've been told by people like Femi from Numbers, that is the most expensive corridor in the world. In terms of real estate, cost of real estate, because it doesn't make sense. You find that it says $1 million, there's no door in the house. You know, I mean, it's a bit ridiculous, but I understand it's because of the amount of idle money in the system. Okay, so, okay, but here's where I'm going. I've said to God from my heart, I said to God that in my lifetime, you will not be able to say that you sought for a man on this corridor and you found none. And I believe that. It's a commitment to God. It doesn't mean I'm perfect. But that is the driving philosophy of my personal life. That in my lifetime, I'll be useful in the hands of God. God bless you. Thank you.
Announcements, just to repeat the announcements you had in the beginning. 21st of March, we have our annual Partners fundraising there. We have flyers and bags in the back, so hopefully we'll see you there. Working for God in the marketplace, registrations are outside, so for prior Working for God students in the house, please bring your friends and help us recruit these students and everybody else in the house as well. I want to encourage you to recruit people onto the program. We have books and CDs on sale at the foyer as well, so please grab a copy. And we've got the feedback from which I've talked about, so if you could kindly fill that out before you leave and hand it back to someone at the registration desk or any one of us here today. Closing remarks. Just want to thank all of our speakers here today. Thanks Pastor John, thanks Mr. Femi Edu and Kwame Abadia. We appreciate the time that you've taken out to grace our event. We've put together a small gift. It's just a token of our appreciation and a thank you letter as well, which Mamuna is going to present to each of you now as well.
They'll give Pastor John too.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, sir.
My brother, my friend.
Thank you all three very, very much. We appreciate your time.
You can take pictures.
We've learned today that there needs to be a personal call to action as well as having an institutional or nationwide drive to a new Nigeria. Give us that clarity as to where we can serve. Give us that clarity as to where we can sow, and help us take this desire from just being a desire within our hearts to an actual physical outcome of the new Nigeria that we desire, O Lord. Help us all to plug into your agenda for this nation, and help us to sow into it, O Lord. We commit the nation Nigeria into your hands, and we commit every single citizen of it, O Lord. We just give you all the glory. We ask for you to take control, O Lord. In Jesus' name we pray that we And as everyone goes home tonight, Lord, take them home safely, and let's all reconvene at the next AIMP series by your grace. In Jesus' name we pray.